Welcome to the third episode of Boss Pod, my new podcast where I have live conversations with creators of all industries, and we get into their brains and how they take an idea and make it the final masterpiece, the final work of art that we see in the end. Not a lot of us get to see what that's like. Us as creators know it, but I think it's cool to talk about it, and for other artists who can come together with ideas. And I think it's really inspiring to hear what people are doing and how they're making art. So today I'm talking with two self-produced artists who are setting the new standard for DIY music creation. We're going to talk to them about how they turn their songs into polished musical arrangements fit for online distribution and radio. So if you've always wanted to know how music is actually made, or you're an artist that wants to start recording and releasing your own music, this is the episode for you. So hi, I'm Nova, and I'm a pop artist myself. I am releasing my first fully produced song this Friday, May 15th. It's ironically called By Myself, and this is the first song that I'm putting out that I made by myself. So I want to talk about that a little bit, but first, I'm going to get into this show and what Boss Pod is all about and what my mission is with it. Basically, I am a DIY artist myself. I'm an independent artist, and a lot of my life I have been waiting for opportunities to make my career into something. And I realized last year that no one was going to do it for me, so I decided to do it myself. And so I've been kind of bossing it out this year and realizing that a lot of being a musician and an artist has to do with business and finding your own path and being like strategic and just doing it yourself and being your own manager, your own label, your own agent, your own everything. So my goal with this podcast is to bring artists together and bring light to how art is actually made. So with that being said, if you like what you hear in this episode and you want to support the podcast, you can visit my Patreon, patreon.com/shenova, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/shenova, where all Boss Pod episodes are uploaded. And also be sure to follow me here on Instagram to watch this podcast live every Sunday at 11 a.m. and be a part of the conversation in chat. The people who participate in chat can directly the influence of the conversation, you know? After this live recording here on Instagram, the episodes are distributed on all podcast outlets, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So let's get started with today's episode. Like I said, we're talking to two independent artists who make their own music. And that's pretty cool and crazy because as a songwriter, getting an idea and putting a song together is one thing, but turning it into a musical arrangement is a whole other thing. And for me, I started producing myself a couple years ago in GarageBand because I wanted to make my own live show with tracks. And so that's kind of how I got started in production. But then that turned into me like turning songs into official productions as well. So I've been dabbling, but it's really not until this year that I've really been diving deep into Ableton and learning the technical side of things, how to record my vocals better. I just got better gear this year too, so things are sounding better. When you have a song, there's so many directions that you can take it, and you have to have the mind of a producer, like bigger picture, what the whole idea you're trying to portray. But then also being an artist, and when you're so attached to a song and it's your baby and you've been like playing it on piano or guitar for however long, it's hard to have that more objective producer mentality of like, okay, well, also a producer has to be in the details of the sounds too. So there's a lot of different sides of it because I'm also engineering what I'm doing. So there is a technical, tedious macro type of perspective with being a producer as well. So it's just switching gears and in your mind, having to play a lot of roles. So it's a challenging task, and I'm really excited to talk to these two bosses today. We got two dudes here. These are my first two dude guests. The last two episodes, we all had chicks somehow. It just kind of randomly happened like that. So I'm excited to hear how these guys are making music. And I do want to talk a little bit about By Myself. You can support me and that song by pre-saving it, by going to shenova.co. There's a pre-save link, and when you pre-save it on Spotify and pre-order on iTunes, it's available everywhere. It helps me a lot as a DIY artist. the getting the algorithms on my side is not easy. Our first guest is paving the way for independent indie artists everywhere. Self-classified as internet pop, this emerging artist and producer is formulating a creamy, instantly classic sound that is then topped with ear-warming vocals. Now living in Nashville, he takes a Lennon McCartney style approach to songwriting with his partners Blake Brock and Jesse Walpole, making nostalgic feel-good songs that will transport you to a pastel, slow-motion version of reality. Just dropping a double release entitled Side A, Side B, this boss is doing it all, and his entrepreneurship and artistry shines through in his super vibey band, Electric Skyline. Please give a big Boss Pod loving welcome to Rob Walton.
Oh, hey.
Hey, surprise, surprise. Bottom. Hello, yeah, you're on the I'm on the top. I don't know what that means, but how's it going? You looking cool this morning. Got that bedhead rocker vibe hair.
It's just the head. It's not the bedhead. It's always like this.
Just the head, yeah. You got the AirPod too. I like it.
Yeah, we're like Michael Jackson in one glove, but one earpod.
Yeah. So how are you doing today? Sorry to abruptly tell you you're going first, but here we are.
No, it's good. I logged in right away because I like to watch and make sure that I'm not just jumping in like, hey, everyone, if you had been talking about something already, I don't want to like bring it up already, you know?
Yeah. So as far as what I said so far, do you relate to this having to wear so many hats when you're producing your own music and when you're attached to it as a songwriter and then kind of having to remove yourself as a producer?
Yeah, definitely. But really, like, I'm sure you know, you don't really know any other way if you've been doing it like this for so long. And it's just like, to me, it is what it is. It's not just like, I'm an artist and now I got to take this hat off and put on the producer hat. To me, making music and being an artist for myself is doing that all the time, no matter what it is.
So you have partners. Kind of tell us and walk us through what that looks like when you get in a room with them. In your bio, it's all about the vibes and like instantly you feel like you're in the room with you guys. So what does that look like when you're writing?
Yeah, that's so I guess that's like the point of what we want the music to feel like when you listen to it. We really want it to be just like bedroom vibes. We want it to be, you know, you picture some artists when you listen to them and it's like, oh my gosh, I can see them on a stadium and I'm in the crowd and I'm up on the gate like going at it. And our sound is just more of like an intimate, like the things we talk about. We use a lot of like synths and very clean guitars and like loop drums and stuff. And it's just a simpler, like less is more approach to the sound. And that's just a result of things that we like to listen to, the kind of music that we like to make. And before we started making it, would listen to, like I was just like a playlist junkie really, and just went on Spotify and just found new artists and actually found you on there at one time.
You found me on Spotify. Cool. Awesome. For either here or Instagram. Either way, I'm doing something right, maybe.
Yeah. Right. And yeah, that's what it was. I found one of your songs or something, and then went to your Instagram, and I was like, oh, all purple? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're talking about these vibes and this playlisting that's inspiring you, it sounds like you're doing what I call referencing, you know, finding what I like and pulling things from that into your own music. Yeah.
As fun as it is to listen to this music, it's educational listening in my regard. I listen to a lot of stuff to see what's new, see what's up, see what people are talking about, just who are the new artists and what are they doing. You always have to be, when you're an indie artist and you're doing the boss thing, you can't just sit around, make your music and just hope everyone likes it. You got to be always trying every single day, do something. And I just am to the point where I don't feel like I feel guilty if I don't do something like educational towards what my goal is. So
how are you discovering new music?
I'll usually go to like different playlists. Of course, like Spotify curated ones, like the all new indie and stuff, but I like to find ones of people that just did it organically and have a lot of followers and likes and stuff on their playlist and see what they're finding. And I don't know how these people get them, but there's one that I always listen to. I think it's called Indie Chill Out, and it's just like my go-to. It's always updated, and like my goal is to get on there one day.
Yeah, and I'm sure you will. And as you're plugging them right now, you're getting on their good side. So
yeah, whoever they are, but they're putting out good music, and it's a lot of good artists, and a lot of the times it's music that I'll hear, and then a couple months later it comes out, like that Super Lonely song. I heard that so long before it was popular, like on TikTok. It's just like a huge song now.
It's
But
good
there's
to
a ton of
know
songs.
that.
Rex Orange County.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking it's good to hear that some songs take time to grow into that. Because usually you think of a song coming out and it's like it's either making it or it's not. So it's nice to hear that sometimes it does just take time and getting on the right playlist to be heard.
It's just like this mantra that closed mouths don't get fed, and so you gotta always search for what's new and see, like, I'm not just listening to the music, I'm not just listening to like the tones, I'm also looking at the little short film that plays on Spotify. I'm looking at their aesthetic, I'm looking at the way they titled their music. I'll dive into each artist. I'll usually just like go through and I'll listen to 30 seconds of a song, and if it doesn't grab me in 30 seconds, next. Because and sometimes it's less than that. Sometimes I'll like a song in 5 seconds if I just like the synth tone. I'm like, not like I'm stealing this, but like I would like to make something similar to that, like the intro is really cool.
Sorry, you'd be a great A&R too with that mentality. Like, you sound like you understand artists and you really hear good music. You know when it's good, and that's great.
And I don't know, like, not everyone would consider it to be good, but it is what I'm going for. And every single day that I'm searching for new music, I'm always fine-tuning that and streamlining so that I can make my craft exactly what I want.
Streamlining is a great word. Yeah. I use that word all the time because I'm the kind of artist that'll just sit and tinker over one little thing and get really obsessive on one aspect, and then the whole rest of it's a mess, and I have to like pull myself back and be like, okay, how am I just gonna get what needs to be done, hit all the marks, and move on? Because it's hard to remove yourself as an artist sometimes when it's your baby.
And yeah, I've run into that too with songs that I've just been sitting on for 5 years, and like, what identity do I want this song to be? And it's like, for 5 years I'm like, nope, I'm not that artist yet. I'm not the artist who can release this song yet. And like, I just put out one like a couple weeks ago that was one that I've been sitting on for 5 years. I actually started writing it as like, okay, I'm just going to be a songwriter, I'm not going to be an artist. And like, okay, if I was going to write a song for like Usher, what would it sound like? And so I wrote a song called Misbehaving, and it was originally supposed to be like this R&B song, but over the past 5 years, it's been changed to now it's like this like slow jam, sad boy indie pop thing, and it's just who I am now. Like, it's the artist that I am now. Yeah.
I love it. So when you're writing now, you're thinking for you, but I mean, I have found it in the past it to be a tool when you do put your brain in different perspectives and be like, how would someone else say this? Or kind of an imagination more, way into it.
It's very abstract. Yeah. I think that I've found recently, like, I know exactly what you're saying. And that was kind of my original approach, is like, I'm writing out of my body. I'm writing out of perspective of other people. And recently I'm just like, I've got so much crazy stuff in my life that I need to just write about. And it really writes itself. And I have friends who I need to tell their story because it's such an interesting story. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't always have to be a story. It can just be like a vibe or a feeling. Like, this song has no words about this person's life, but this song is that person.
So I know you live in Nashville, and it's maybe not any different than LA. Maybe just people making music as people making music. But do you find that there's a certain culture in writing there? Like, do you start on the guitar and you finish the song, or do you take an idea and put some sounds on it and then flesh it out into the finished product? Like, how does
you mean me personally, or people by and large in Nashville?
Either. I'm more interested in you and how you work with your team.
Yeah, I assume it's more purist. Nashville is very purist, and so I assume that the approach there is like, let's all get in a room and we're going to sit around with our instruments and we're going to just organically do this, and then we're going to have a songwriting session. Like, that's the thing in Nashville, is like songwriting sesh, like everyone like want to write together. But I'm like totally not Nashville at all compared to what I find mostly. And my approach is I write the majority of my songs traveling, like driving. So I'm from the Panhandle region of Florida. That's where I am now, like during quarantine, while everyone is being afraid of the coronavirus. I'm here with it. And my songwriting approach is I'll get a Starbucks and an exit. This is from like 3 days ago. Someone brought it to me. And I can't drink the whole thing or I'll wig out. And
I can't do caffeine either. I'm on decaf because I like coffee, the taste, but I can't do the caffeine either.
well, talking about putting different hats on, whatever you put into your body is a different hat for who you're going to be as far as songwriting that day. You know
Wow.
what I'm saying? But yeah, I'll get in the car and I'll just drive. And between Nashville and Florida, it's a straight shot. I-65 goes straight down. It's a 7-hour drive. So around the halfway point, my brain starts going, and I'll have listened with my ear pods to songs on these playlists, and that's where I do a lot of my educational listening. And then I'm just like, I write songs in this world that I'm living in, between the 35 songs that I've just listened to, and I'll think of how I want to say it, and it just comes to me easier. And it's like I'm focusing on the road. Of course, you got to be safe, and like cruise control's on, but in the back of your mind, that's where the music happens to me. So I can write an entire song, music, lyrics, melody in my head, and then when I get to Nashville or wherever I'm going, it's just put it down, do it.
So are you recording anything into your phone or like writing anything down at rest stops?
Sometimes I'll do voice memos,
Okay.
and sometimes I'll be knee driving, and I don't ever do that. But
When it's a straight shot,
yeah, that's I want to get a Tesla so I can write on the road.
Yeah, oh God, a Tesla would be amazing.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't really care.
Just to not have to drive would be nice.
Yeah, well, it's kind of the fun part because like it's life and death. So like if I was on the road, if I was with somebody else and I was in the passenger seat, I'd just be like,
Yeah.
But you kind of have to, like, your frontal mind has to be driving. I'm driving and I have to be safe. So the back of your mind gets to be songwriter, and it's very like the other stuff is not involved in my mental, because my mental is everywhere.
Good point. Good point. And I'm ADHD, so I get the whole mental everywhere thing. And when I have some direct, simple cognitive task that I can physically do,
Then my
like
brain.
cleaning. Yeah.
Yes, vacuuming is my meditation. I love vacuuming. I've got my Dyson. It's my baby. I love that thing. And just the simple act of moving that thing back and forth just clears my brain. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I know that sports pros use this. I started, when I was younger, I played tennis. And my coach would make me talk about my life so that I wasn't thinking about the actual act. It was like the reverse, but the actual act of playing tennis, so that it became muscle memory and just like easy. And so like mind hacks like that is a really cool thing. Do you find that you can get that result with anything other than driving, or are you spending your checks on gas?
Running. I do a lot with running, and recently I despised running. But it just goes along with part of the shindig of being a musician. You gotta like do your image and stuff, and so I always like to take care of myself, and not just for the image. Like I like to be healthy too. Obviously, I'm vegan, like you are too, which is amazing. When I'm like 1.5 miles down the road, I really run like this, horribly, and I got my AirPods in. These things are amazing.
I love these things too.
This is the best, because it is like you're in the universe. You're in a different universe when these are in. It's so great because there's no wires. I
have Beats too, and those are noise canceling. So I'll sometimes use those when I'm in noisy places or when I travel, and it just saved my life. I'm so sad too. I was touring and I was in Dallas and I lost my other one, so I only have one now, and like I can't switch between them when one dies. So I'm gonna have to buy new ones.
I thought you were being cool, and I was like, oh, maybe she knows something that I don't know. Maybe the microphone picks up better when there's not two. So here's my other one. I'm just trying to be trendy.
No, I'm sad. I'm down one pod.
Okay, well here's one if you want it.
Thank you. So yeah, I want to get into a little bit. I love hearing your creative process, and you hit such good things that some people don't think about. Like usually when you think of writing, you're like in a pressure situation, in a room, like have to write something, and how are you going to do that?
I cannot do that.
Nice to hear.
It has to be, whoa, this sounds good, and we should just like keep going on this vibe. It's like a rock drops in the water, and that rock makes a wave, and you're just like, write it for as long as you can, as long as you can, as long as you can.
Yeah,
and that's just like the rock being the inspiration for the song. And like, or you just get on a good melody and you're like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like you just have to keep it going.
Yeah, and sometimes you do have to push through those moments, because I find when I'm writing, I have to push through these moments. It's not always comfortable. It's a little bit, there's a lot of resistance, at least that happens with me, and you have to push through those because you, like you're saying, you have to follow that creative wave because it might just fizzle, and then you're basically starting over at that point. So producer wise,
Can I ask you some questions about that?
Oh, yeah.
Because
you obviously have some tricks up your sleeve, and I want to know kind of what you've learned. First of all, how long have you been producing yourself?
I've been doing this, I don't know, probably like 6 or 7 years-ish, like probably less for real. But just finding my way, like I heard you talking about, you start on GarageBand. Me and my punk rock band started on GarageBand when we were like 17 or younger, 16, and just like tried figuring out and being like, oh, this is how you, like, you know, originally plugging the mic into the mic input on the back of your Mac, and it's like, oh, this sounds like garbage. Maybe we should, like, how can we get our mic sound to sound better? You find out you need an interface, and like, what's an XLR cable? And then you just like learn by trial and error and multiple aha moments. And then I got a job working at this like really, really crappy studio in Florida, and I would do all kinds of artists, like from like R&B to country to hip hop, singer songwriter, and I would just like, basically my job was to figure out Logic, and I just like sat there. You don't need a job like this to do what I have. You just need to like live at home and someone bring you meals and stuff, because I spent so much time like behind the computer and figuring out like what does EQ do? What is a bad EQ? What does compression do? What does noise gate do? And finding like little tricks of like, okay, this is the sound that I want. It's in between my ears. How do I make it? And that's what I want, or that's what I do with my music. If I hear the sound in my head, I know, oh man, this doesn't sound wide enough. Like the synth doesn't allow enough space for my vocal. What can I do? I can add a slight modulation effect, and it will open up some space for my vocal to sit and make it sound more dreamy and this and that, and just like experimenting.
I love how you treat your vocals, by the way. But yeah, so because I know there's a lot of people that do that trial and error method, but maybe I'm a little instant gratification, but we're in the information age. If I think I need to add something or learn something for a specific piece, I YouTube it, and I'm like trying to ask the right questions. Are you doing that as well? Do you?
I definitely started that way, and like if I had a nickel for every time I've YouTubed the same video on how to sidechain, now I know how to sidechain. But I'm like, I want a pumping bass. How do I sidechain? It's like, why are there so many steps? But now I got that. Yeah.
Because I went to school for this. Like I was taught how to sidechain, and like literally a couple weeks ago, I was like in Google going to YouTube how to sidechain in Ableton, and I'm like, this is great. This is great. I'm paid for a great education, obviously.
Literally, I have probably 40 views on this guy's video because I've watched it, and it's not a short video either.
I love it.
So any other tricks? Because I do love your sound. Like for anybody that's watching that doesn't know them, because I do know you have some fans in here, which is super cool. But you have such a clean sound, and it's warm and creamy, and everything flows. It's like a musical dance between things. And I hear you're very strategic with EQ and how you're leaving room for certain things. Very, very smart. What's kind of your theory on that? And like, how do you hear what needs to happen?
Well, there is definitely two hats that you have to wear, and they're very rigid, and I'm sure that you know, there's engineer hat and there's producer hat. Engineer hat is sound design, the person who does that, and then producer is the person who sits back and goes, what does this need? Like, okay, to this point, what does this need? Engineer wise, I use a lot of Massive, which is Massive. It's I don't know if you know what that is. It's like Native Instruments, like
I don't have it though.
You need to get it. It's like $100, and it comes with like 1,000 different synth sounds, and I have never one time used a preset and kept it the way it is. You just gotta like manipulate it to your song, and it's as creative as you want to get with it. It's like the synth has to sound like the song that you're about to write, or that you're about to play. Like the synth has to it can't just be like, ooh, this is a nice tone. It's got to be like, if my song is about my dog left and I'm sad, I need a my dog left and I'm sad synth. And if the synth doesn't sound like that, then it's not the synth for me. So find the sound that emotionally set, like if there was no words in the song at all, I want the music of my song to say what my song is saying lyrically. And so I'll kind of get an idea. I'll add the scratch vocal or whatever, and then I'll just listen to it and I'll be like, what does this need? A lot of the times I'll have an idea for what the end game is going to sound like because of my song references. And I know like, okay, I'm going to do a song kind of in this vein. I'll have that in mind, but a lot of the times it's happy accidents. Thank you, Bob Ross. It's happy little accidents that end up sticking in. And like I'll accidentally do something in my most recent song, No Phones. Accidentally dragged the drum loop into a guitar amp, and it sounded awesome. And I was like, oh, this is what I was looking for, something unique. So
Is
I
that
usually
how,
keep
because
I heard the kit on both the songs, side A and side B. I know you had the two songs. The drums sounded treated similarly. Did you add it to the other one then, or no? Because they're filtered in a very specific way that's unique.
Well, I have like ways that I like my go-tos. I'm trying to remember how the side A went. The song hit play. Side A, you do it. Side B, I do this one. But our styles are so similar, and we did work on it together. So it ends up sounding similar. For the most part, it's like loops that we change. Like I'll take a kick, like a lo-fi kick that I've downloaded from like a drum bank or something, or like a lot of times it's just Logic's like basic ass 808. And then I'll take that and like go into the ultra beat thing and manipulate it, change the key to where the kick is in the same key. And because little subliminal things like that that you would never have thought of that really just tie it all together in the end.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever tuned a kick. I don't know if I ever got that far, but I always tune my snares and hi-hats to the least because they're so prominent in the mix. I dragged one in from Splice one time. It was literally a half step off, and I was like, what's going on? And yeah, I tuned it, and it's like instantly everything just opens up and sounds so much better.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes I'll go for like, this is sticking out. Why? Because it's not tuned. You know, it just depends on what you want to go for. If your song is confusing in the first verse, like, oh, I'm so deep and brooding and confused lyrically, then I want something that's off key, or I want something that's warbling. I want to add something like that into there. But really, producer hat is like the most, you can't really teach that. You just got to know what you're going for, and you got to, it's all it is, producing, you know. I'm just telling the people is like, if it sounds good, it is good. That's all it is. That's what I learned from one of my college professor guys. He was like, and I didn't follow along with like my engineering school. I kind of just went off and did my own thing. But one of the things that I took from him was, if it sounds good, it is good. You don't have to be recording in Muscle Shoals or anything amazing studio. You just got to make it sound good. If it is what you're going for, like, it's one thing if you can't achieve that, but if you're an artist and you want to make it.
You are quite fuzzy, my friend, just to let you know. I don't know if you're on Wi-Fi and maybe want to try to switch to cellular or vice versa.
Oh.
But you are a blurry blob for me at the moment.
Hang on, let's see.
Yeah, you're good, because I don't think the other guest is coming. I think we had an accidental sleep-in. Didn't hear the alarm situation or something, so... So I want to talk about, since we don't have another guest, and since you're here with me, I do want to talk about my song By Myself for a second, because I know that there's some people here that I invited that want to start producing themselves, and I'm going to ask you the same question here in a sec, but we talked about me starting in GarageBand and how I would take like simple ideas, like say a piano layer and then add a drum and just like really, really simple basic stuff in GarageBand to where I'm feeling confident to put this song out myself. And there was a huge gap and a huge learning curve between those two things, because sitting down in GarageBand and making a cool beat is a very different thing than having a song that I felt was ready to be put out as me as an artist. So trial and error is a thing. Looking up stuff is a thing. You touching on finding references and kind of replicating aspects of those songs is a thing. Also, I streamed all of this. I know you know that I'm on Twitch and stuff, and there's a lot of smart people online that will help you, and you can literally send them something and they'll be like, oh yeah, do this, this, and this, and this. So I think getting input is like a really huge thing for me. And when I was doing all of this and getting input, and I had multiple versions of this song that I put out before the actual one, and a trick that I learned, and I don't know if this is for you or not, but I learned that sometimes you have to unproduce. So I was like kind of putting too much into things, or like I ended up taking my first version of the production and completely stripping it back to just the vocals and rebuilt the track. Even though that first one led me to like finishing the melodies and that sort of thing, I knew it wasn't good enough. So I literally stripped everything away and rebuilt a track underneath it. Have you ever had those experiences where you're like, oh my God, this is a great song, it grew into something cool, but like I have to totally redo this entire beat?
Yeah, definitely. It doesn't really matter how you get to the pot of gold, beat to the Ryan, just as long as you beat the leprechauns. But definitely I find it really hard sometimes to like reverse engineer a song, because I'm like, oh, I really worked hard on this, but you just have to decide like, what do you want in the end? Is it something that you can't live without, or is there one thing about the song you're just like, it's not hitting me to where I'm like, oh my God, I'm in love with this. Like, you got to be that for everything that you put out, because not everyone is going to love it as much as you do. So you got to hold your bar high, and that doesn't mean it's got to be 87 tracks. It usually is anyway, even if it's supposed to sound simple. It's just like, what are you trying to say? What is your sound? And I encourage people to put it out there. Like, that's the most of it is mental. Like, when you put a song out, like, there's not much of a difference between you building it and it being on Spotify. Yeah, it's to the world, and the world can have it, but there doesn't need to be such a high fence that you have to like pole vault over for like self-acceptance with a song. Like, if it's a cool beat and it's like a guitar loop or a piano loop and a sweet vocal, and it's just like, it's got this emotion and it makes you feel this certain way and makes you do the like TikTok dance, then that's what you want.
Speaking of TikTok, I think TikTok is changing the acceptability of crappy beats, because most of the stuff on there is like distorted. It's like, it's not your typical pop finished final product, like the stuff you happen to be putting out. But that was a huge like epiphany to me, that like, hey, maybe people don't care about quality. They just want a good song that feels good, like you're saying.
Yeah, here's what I'll say about that. Not 100% of the time is it great audio quality, but 100% of the time it's what they're trying to convey. And sometimes like when you want like that, oh, this is crazy and awesome, then it's gonna sound like it's distorted and, really, really like that. Just an emotion. It's to convey emotion. It's the soundtrack to a thought or an idea. My music is chill and bedroom vibes, and so that's what it is. But if I wanted to make crazy rave music, then I would totally do it, and I might do it just because I can go there mentally. Like, I can go to a rave and be like, whoa, pss, 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 this is awesome. It's like including but not limited to is like what music is.
With these two that you put out, you can speak to just one of them if it didn't apply to the other, but what was your biggest challenge on these?
Biggest challenge was
or are you just awesome and everything's easy?
yeah, sometimes it's easier. Like, sometimes songs are just like telling you, write me down, record me, and sometimes you literally have to yank it like it's a cat you want to take for a walk.
You say the best analogies.
Yeah, these were pretty easy in that regard, because the song was like, okay, I know what I want to say. I want to write a song about having no phones and disconnecting, and maybe we can disconnect so that we can connect. Like, that was that idea. And then Hit Play was written by my friend. So the hardest part for my band, really, which ends up not being as much of a hard part as it is a characteristic of our band, is we don't live in the same cities. So we consider ourselves genre-wise internet pop, which means to us, everything that we do is online. This is a new era of bands and the way that we create music and the way that we write music and record music, and it's all done online. And we just share things, ideas, Dropbox, Google Drive, send each other ideas, talk on the phone. Like, we're never together. I've seen him since we've been a band.
Wow.
I've seen him probably like 3 or 4 total days. So
Wow.
everything that we're able to do is with the modern era of the world. Call it difficult, but I just call it a characteristic. That's just like, it's something unique about us.
I absolutely love that. Like, that is so inspiring. And I have felt with this quarantine, we're moving towards that and realizing that some of our old habits of having to get together for coffee and have meetings and all this stuff is like, we're realizing, like, we can do this on FaceTime, or we can do this through email or Dropbox, whatever you're saying. And I've been excited about that for the aspect of streaming, because I encourage every artist to get on Twitch, which is why I hit you up. I was like, dude, you would slay. You got to get on this.
Once I don't have coronavirus, I'm going to get a webcam and do it.
Yes, and I'm gonna help you all through that, because I've been helping some other artists get started on Twitch, and they're killing it too. So I'm not endorsed. I think it's a great place, and all artists should be there. But that's what it's starting to turn into, is like, because of this quarantine, people are realizing like, oh, I can do a show using my phone, and I can connect with fans that way, and I don't have to necessarily go somewhere, and it is kind of a slower, more old-fashioned idea if you think about it. Like, you can reach so many more people online, and it's quicker and easier.
I agree, and I've been in a touring band for past like 3 years, and like before this Electric Skyline, and it just kind of like got to a point where it's like, what are the benefits, like analytically, to what we're doing touring? Like, how many people are we getting, and how much time and effort and money are we putting into this touring? Touring's great, don't get me wrong, but I think you have to get to a point where you're kind of in demand, or it's not worth it. And you can create that demand online nowadays. And so Electric Skyline never planned to be a touring act until we were in demand. And it was just like, let's do internet band. Let's be like the first wave of an internet band, not put any money into acquiring speakers and stuff, which we already have and stuff. But you know what I mean? Like, you
don't have to have it.
Yeah, so many bands like could have spent that money on Instagram promo and done 3 or 10 times better for themselves than if they were, trying to rent a van and eat and stuff. And like, I'm at home, I'm sitting on my couch, I just did a song, and it's like, I did a cover video today. I did something for myself, and I tried to make my name bigger, and I didn't have to go out and spend 8 hours on the road and risk dying and stuff because I drive with my knee.
Again, sorry you have coronavirus. That is insane.
Yeah. It's not bad.
Okay, well that's good to hear. And you are already kind of worried about it because you're compromised with your breathing. So it's like so scary. I'm just happy you're okay.
I really want to get a tattoo of like a bat with a crown on and say Survivor underneath it.
That is so badass. Yes, I approve.
I survived.
Well, it gives me a lot of hope too with this online stuff, because I think more collaborations can happen once we kind of smooth out and get this being a normal process in music. We can start working with people from all over the world, and there's so much less resistance because we don't have to meet up. So hopefully more great music and more great collabs are made.
Definitely. That's the point. 100%. And that's, I'm glad that you reached out and all that, because I'm looking forward, like, we need to do a song ASAP.
Yes. We are scheduled for tomorrow, I think. Okay. Do you want to plug anything? Because I got to wrap up this episode in a minute, but let everybody know where they can find your music and help you out.
Yes, you can find me Electric Skyline on Spotify. That's like the main one. It's everywhere, but that's the main one we're pushing right now because I'm in love with Spotify and it's my future ex-wife. But I just want to be on Spotify. I like it so much, and I have an iPhone. But Electric Skyline, we have 5 songs out now, and we're gonna be putting out a live video of one of our songs like this week. So find me on Instagram at the name that you see at the top left of your screen underneath Shinova Weirdo, but Neon Vegan, that's me, neon.vegan. I'm hoping that it's like that for everyone, I assume so. But thank you for having me on. This has been great, and I look forward to your new song, By Myself, which is going to slap. I can't wait.
Thank you for the double plug. Jeez.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on and sharing your wisdom and awesome artistry. We all appreciate you. You had some great things to say, so thanks. I'm going to wrap up this episode. Amazing talking to Rob, and I hope this inspires some artists to get started, because even though it's a learning curve, through trial and error and YouTube and a bunch of stuff, and slowly building your rig, it can happen right in your bedroom, in your home, all by yourself. Pun intended. Go pre-save by myself because it'll help me out a lot. It's on Spotify everywhere. The link is in my bio, but it's shenova.co or shenovaweirdo.com, which is what Instagram makes me put because they don't like .cos. But you can pre-save the song, and that helps support me a lot. You can also find everything BossPod at shenova.co/BossPod. You can see all the show notes, all the guest social media pages, all that good stuff. And this show is all about supporting and encouraging and recognizing amazing artists, so please be sure to go follow them. Rob today, but also the artists that I've had in the past. You can see all the episodes on shenova.co/BossPod. It's on all podcast outlets everywhere. This one will be included in that archive tomorrow on my YouTube and everywhere else. So yeah, shenova.co/BossPod is where you can find it at. Yeah, and then live next Sunday, we are having 2 videographers on, cinematographers. So we're going to be getting in the mind of more visual things next week and what that's like creating super high quality product in the video world. So yeah, that's next Sunday, 11 a.m. And if you'd like to support the podcast, be sure to go to patreon.com/shenova. Anything that you can give, even if it's $1 a month, helps me stay alive and eat. And be sure again, Shenova Weirdo on Instagram for live every Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific time. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Sunday. I'm Shenova signing off at BossPod episode 3, Conversations with Creators. Later, y'all.